is every set of feature will pick out one set of sounds at the exclusion of everything else. Typically, there's also a negative of the feature that picks out the everything else, right? So in this case, this is a list of all of the features that we have. And what people started out with in the 60s with SPE was just a arbitrary set of features. And by the 80s, people came to believe that the features were not just a arbitrary connection, but there was actually hierarchical structure in how features are organized. It sort of makes sense intuitively. Things about voicing all go together. So voicing, aspiration, glottalization would all sort of go together. And people think they go together not just because anatomically they do, but because sounds seem to pattern. They're patterns of sounds that go that way. There are other things that are harder to connect up. So continuancy, lateral, nasal, stridency, place of articulation, that would all go together in some sense. So what are the places? We've got labial sounds, coronal, which is really like stuff around the alveolar ridge, dentals, alveolars, postalveolars, dorsal sounds. Dorsal, that's like the tongue body, the dorsum. So dorsal sounds are more like velar sounds. Velars, palatals, uvulars, and then we've got pharyngeal sounds that are really different. In about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, I think, this will be like one of the first question on a quiz you have is going to be draw the feature tree. This is called the feature tree, right? So you'll just have to you'll get half of a blank page and it'll say draw the feature tree, and you draw the feature tree. And what we're doing is we're going to be spending the next few weeks really mastering features. I'm showing this to you because it will all make sense soon. All right. Now, all of these things are just the names of features, but let's start talking. The first feature is abbreviated CV, but it's actually, technically it's not CV. The first feature to talk about is plus or minus syllabic. And that's abbreviated plus or minus sil, but it's usually abbreviated like this: plus sil equals V minus sil equals C. But there's something funny about the syllabic, plus or minus syllabic feature. It's not really vowels and consonants, it's syllable peaks. So what constitutes a syllable peak? That's usually a vowel, but you can also have syllabic consonants, right? So syllabic consonants could technically be plus syllabic because they're creating syllables. So plus syllabic sounds are sounds that constitute a syllable peak. Sounds that constitute a syllable peak. Minus syllabic sounds are non-syllabic sounds. Non-syllabic sounds are considered consonants and glides. All right? Glides are approximants, roughly, in phonetic terms. So ya and wa would be the glides of English. So minus syllabic. Non-syllabic sounds, consonants and glides also. When you study a feature, there are several ways you can study them. One way is to learn what the definitions are. So sounds that constitute a syllable peak or non-syllabic sounds. The other way is to think of an IPA chart and say, okay, how would this feature break up an IPA chart? How would it pick sounds out of an IPA chart? If you think about a classic I'm going to turn the vowel chart upside down just for fun. think about just IPA sounds, you've got vowels, you've got consonants, you've got like PTK. This is like an upside down IPA chart, right? And an upside down vowel chart. I could have written it the other way around. I wanted to put plus on the top, that's why. Plus syllabic sounds are basically the vowels. Now, we've set aside that syllabic consonants can be plus syllabic too, right? That's an oversimplification. Plus syllabic sounds are the vowels, minus syllabic sounds are everything else. Does that make sense? So this is an introduction to one feature and how that works. Let me talk about another semi-counterintuitive feature called consonantal. All right. So there are plus consonantal and minus consonantal sounds. And if you look, CV, plus syllabic, remember, is V, and minus syllabic is C. These are the vowels and these are the consonants. Does that make sense? Right? So that's what CV does, and that's at the top of our tree, the top of this picture, right? Isn't it fun how like we always talk about trees in linguistics and all of our trees grow upside down? We should have just called them roots. But whatever. Okay. So looking at consonantal, sonorant, and approximant, the next set of features, what do those do to these sounds? Consonantal sounds are the sounds that are produced when the vocal tract is in a configuration narrower than that of a glide.
What?
Now you can find glide.
Glides are yas and was.
Oh no.
So it's basically taking the set of approximants and saying that ya and wa, the vocal tract is a little bit more open than in sounds like ra and la. Ra and la have a slightly closer constriction than ya or wa. Ya or wa somehow are more vowel-like than R and L. Okay? And what consonantal says is everything that has a tongue position or articulated position narrower than a glide is consonantal. And everything else is minus consonantal. Does this make sense? So what that means is glides are minus syllabic and minus consonantal. They're not really vowels and they're not really consonants. That sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Catherine?
In Arabic, they're used as both vowels and consonants.
Salud.
In Arabic, the symbols for ya and la are also the symbols for e and u.
Yeah, there's like a real tight connection between ya and e and wa and u. And if you think about it, when you say e, if you just say e, or if you start saying ya, say e, it's really just, if you prolong it, it's just e, right? They are almost exactly the same sound. The distance, or the difference, is really one of timing, of transitions between sounds, and of being a syllable peak. Ya and wa can't constitute syllable peaks. They're the beginnings of syllables. They're what happened when you put those sounds at the beginning or end of syllables. And that's what's interesting about them. And that's why they pattern differently.